So hello there, it's just me and Whitney tonight. Devi has gone into hiding. Although we don't know why, but she has sent us a video, so I'll let her speak for herself before we slag her off.
Hi everybody, sorry I can't make it today, but I've got to take my husband to Nashville to the doctor, and I won't make it back on time. So I hope you have a great week and listen to everything Mark says. I'm sure it's fantastic. Ha!
Yeah, she's got a legitimate excuse. We changed the nights from Wednesdays to Tuesdays, and she had a booking to go take her husband to the hospital on the Tuesdays, so she wasn't able to change it. So blame me for that. But then again, Whitney and I get to slag her off and talk about her behind her back before she gets a chance to come back and defend herself and argue with us. So tonight's subject is the second part 2 on communication from spirit. And tonight we're talking very specifically about when you get thoughts in your head that you think are your own or imagination. How do you determine whether it's spirit, or how do you determine whether it's just you letting your imagination go into clockwork? And of course, to be controversial, I say something that is rapidly different from every other medium that I've ever met, except those that I've trained, like Whitney and Devi. So Whitney has had some experience prior to being trained by me, so she's going to play Devi's role and argue with me tonight, because I can't stand it. Boring. Anything to add to that, Whitney?
I think that a lot of people get caught up in trying to discern their imagination from messages from spirit, but I find that whenever I'm giving a reading, I want my whole being to be the channel. So if something does come to my imagination, especially if it's not something that I was thinking about before, I'd bring it up. The way that I usually know if something is just my imagination is if it was something that I thought about before starting the reading.
Yeah, that pretty much sums up the rest of the speech. So the rest of the talk for tonight. So let's just close it down. Okay. So bits of news. A big bit of news. Now, this isn't about us. This is actually about Facebook, but this is going to affect us. I can't remember the exact date. I think it's either July the 7th or June 30th, but round about that. Facebook is only going to keep live videos for 30 days. So currently we have about 4 or 5 months of live videos of myself and Devi talking about all sorts of subjects that you can look up on Facebook and relive and rewatch to your heart's content. They're all about to be deleted. The good news is, however, that YouTube, we have a channel there, and we're streaming to YouTube at the same time that we're streaming to Facebook. And on YouTube, it's a bit more organized. So, for example, all the videos between myself and Devi are under the title of Conversations. So go to our YouTube channel. Just search for Marc Stuart Medium and you'll find us. Excuse me. So that's the first bit of news. The second bit of news, let me just show you a picture. As of this month, or as of today, we are rebranding all our streamed output under one label, the Marc Stuart Medium Network. Yes, I am very egotistical. And we did consider other names that didn't include the brand name of Marc Stuart Medium, but we thought it was better to keep Marc Stuart Medium in there so that people would know if they were coming for training or marketing that it was the same people. Now, big camera, because we are doing streaming events or video events. Now, at the moment, or up till now, you've really only seen myself and Devi doing the conversations. We've been talking about all these other wonderful programming events that we're going to be doing. Well, 2 of the 3 of them that we're planning are starting in March. So next Saturday, you can see Marc with cards. I'm not going to replay the advertising video. I think I've done that enough. But basically, half an hour to an hour of me, a different pack of cards every time I do it. So I'll be talking about that cards, my big collection of cards, and the medium that doesn't like doing readings with cards will do card readings. The big difference is, I'm a tech freak. Look at my background compared to Whitney's.
that too much?
I've got all the expensive equipment that's doing these nice cards behind me, basically. Well, I'm going to have a multi-camera setup when I'm doing cards. What does that mean? It means there'll be one camera pointing at the cards in my hands. There'll be one camera pointing at me. And if anybody joins me for a reading, they'll also be on the screen as well. Usually when you go and look at mediums doing card readings, they all do various bits and pieces. Some hold the camera, some point the camera down, some have the camera pointing at the cards and you don't see them, just their voice. I haven't yet seen one person doing it properly with technology. So it's really me showing off the tech skills. If people come in for our training, they get taught the tech skills as well. They don't necessarily have to do that or invest in the equipment, but they will have the knowledge to be able to do it. So that was an advert for an advert. The second major one that we're doing is walks with Marc and Ying on Sunday. That's me and my wife. We were going to be doing it live, but we've done 3 of them now. And to be honest, it's not possible to do it live. So we're recording a couple of hours video each time, and then we're editing it down. So the length will be very variable depending on where we're going. So the first 3 are, I can't remember the order we're doing them in, but we've got Preston Mill, which is really interesting because that was where they filmed some of Outlander at. We've got the oldest building in Edinburgh, which I can't remember the name of, and there's another one. Oh yes, the Museum of Transport in Glasgow. So lots of things in there, like the world's first bicycle, which was Scottish.
I heard something about a castle, so I'm excited for that one.
The one for the castle was meant to be filmed on Sunday, but unfortunately, my wife and I, well, my wife's a podiatrist, and we're just buying another podiatrist business, and we were meeting with the owners of that business, and it was meant to be a 45-minute, but it just one thing led to another, and then the rain started, so that kind of hit that on the head. We were going to do it this weekend, but unfortunately my wife's taken a fancy to going down into a crystal cave, which is in the city centre of Edinburgh. Most people, when they come to Edinburgh, have no idea what they're walking on. So we're going to book it and do that this Sunday, and we'll probably, weather allowing, get back to Haley's Castle the following weekend. The other one that we filmed is in Dunbar, and there is a castle there, but it's very small. Well, there's actually 2 castles. There's a fort that dates back to the American Revolution, and that was used when the Americans were coming over here, and they're sailing ships and evil people firing cannons at us, a bit like modern day with Trump, but never mind. And Dunbar Castle, which dates back, like all castles in Scotland, mega centuries. There's very little of it left, though. You can't even get up to it because it's got fences all around it to protect it. Anyway, that'll be filmed. Those last 2 probably won't be shown till April because we're only going to show 2 a month. The other big thing that we're doing is we're opening up our open circles, and we may, not definite yet, but we may be streaming those. Don't think we'll do them live because we'll have to do some protection. You don't know what the readings are going to be. There might be some readings that we want to edit out, something that's too personal. So we'll play that by ear, but theoretically we'll be doing 2 of those a month starting in April. So basically there'll be 2 walks, 1 with cards, 4 conversations, and 2 circles. And if that's not enough for you, give us some ideas and we'll see what else to do. So that's where this came from. We're going to have it all under the one branding so that people can realize that, yeah, there's a lot more going on. I have delusions of grandeur and I see myself running a television station for spiritualists, but that's another day for another time. So that's our news. That's our news. That's Facebook's news. One other bit of news, we've got a new member of staff who will be starting at the end of the week. His name is Michael, and he's going to be a training advisor. So we might get him to pop on and just give a wee talk now and again. And I do have plans to get a streaming event with him giving business advice to mediums, but we'll worry about that further down the road. So that's me out of speed. Let's get on to our main subject. So what's it all about? It's very simple. When you're a medium, spirit communicates with all mediums differently, but quite often a method of communication is using your imagination. But mediums also have imagination, and quite often the 2 can cross over. So how do you know which is which? Well, Whitney put it very simply, put it very well. My definition is very simple. If you're watching a John Wayne movie and you finish that movie and then somebody's booked a reading with you 1 hour later and you're sitting in their front room giving them a reading and all of a sudden John Wayne walks through your head, I think you can take it as reasonable 99.9% probability that that was the movie that you're imagining, not Spirit telling you that this woman was the granddaughter of John Wayne. Okay, but Spirit does use your imagination. So the first question is why? This is going to turn into a lecture, isn't it? Because I can never shut up.
Yeah. I'll try to keep some interjections, but I didn't want you to continue what you're saying here.
Okay, we kind of covered this last Tuesday in the communications number 1, but Spirit find it extremely difficult to communicate. For example, we covered this in a bit more detail last time, but if you die, pass over, you can't give a reading. I mean, you can't give a message to somebody for at least 6 months because you have to learn how to walk, crawl, run, how to actually connect, how to communicate. It's like learning another language. It's like being a medium. You have to learn how to communicate with Spirit. Spirit are exactly the same. Spirits as individuals have to learn how to communicate with mediums. And all mediums are different. So a spirit might go to one medium one week and communicate in one way, have to go to a different medium the following week. Well, that's if their loved ones are going to the spirit to mediums every week. But you hear what I'm saying. If the loved one is going to different mediums who have different methodologies, different styles, different ways of communicating with Spirit, then that Spirit has the added complication of, oh, it's hand signals this week. Oh, it's smoke signals this week. We can get a smart telephone this week, depending on the medium. So, imagination of the medium is an extremely easy shortcut for Spirit to use. So that, of course, adds the complication of, I like Star Trek. So if I suddenly see Captain Kirk sitting in the chair of the USS Enterprise C, and actually he wouldn't be an Enterprise C because he never commanded Enterprise C, it would be A or B. So Captain Kirk on Enterprise A or Enterprise, see, there you are. If they gave me Captain Kirk on Enterprise C, I would know it's not my imagination.
Don't get too off track.
But you see, there's an example of how Spirit could use my imagination. I'm actually doing, I know that came across flippantly, but that is actually a very serious example of what I'm talking about. I would know, if I saw that, I would know instantly that there was something wrong there. Yes, Captain Kirk is fictional. Yes, Enterprise C only appeared in one episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. So it's not even a ship that most people would even be aware of. You'd have to be a serious fan of Star Trek to even know what Enterprise C was. What would that mean? Okay, well, I could go to the story that it appeared in. I could take characters from the story. I could just say, right, there's something wrong here. You know, here's all the other evidence that I've given you. Now Spirit are telling me that something is going on wrong. Can you understand that? And the sitter would say, yeah, it's all completely wrong. And I would say, look, shut up. I wouldn't use that word, but I would say, don't feed the medium. You know, don't give me stuff that Spirit are giving to me because that undervalues the point of the evidence. But essentially, I could interpret that in a number of different ways, just simply to say that something was wrong. Also, they will use things that you're familiar with. So that could be a place. So, for example, I wouldn't say I was hooked on gambling, but I enjoy going to casinos. I enjoy playing roulette, and I'm actually quite good at it. I win about usually two out of three times I play it, I usually win. And on balance, I'm usually slightly ahead. So if they showed me a roulette wheel, again, it's something I'm familiar with. Sometimes I've actually been in church and I've been giving a reading. I know who I'm going to. And when you're playing roulette, it's an emotional game. It's a battle between you and the casino. The casino are trying to make you comfortable. That means pretty young girls walking past you, serving alcohol, smiling at you, talking to you, getting you to feel very relaxed, and young men, obviously, because a lot of ladies play in casinos these days. And basically, they're trying to get you just to feel comfortable and feel and play. And usually, it depends on the. I'm getting sidetracked here, but you'll understand where I'm going.
A little bit, but I understand. Yeah.
The coupes are usually, you can always tell who's learning on the job and who's been in the job a long time if you watch them, because they'll let people win small amounts, bigger amounts. They'll work out what the betting patterns are of the people. Now I have a betting pattern, so I always get very nervous if the coupe stays long term, because I know that I'm being targeted, I know that I'm being watched, and I know that I'm being set up. And when the numbers go in a particular direction, a particular way, I will suddenly put a big bet on, and 2 out of 3 times I win, 1 out of 3 times I lose. And what usually happens is I'll win once, because if it's a coupe that doesn't know me, I've taken them by surprise. I'll win
Make
twice.
sure you're not getting too sidetracked with this one.
Yeah. I'll win twice, and then the third time I know I'm going to win, I'm going to lose big. Right. So back to what we're talking about. There's emotional feelings that I get during all of that process. Getting scared when I know there's a coupe there. Getting excited when I'm beginning to win. Getting, oh, I can't lose, when I see somebody that I can tell the way the coupe is operating on the table that they've only just started. Because then my methodology actually works in those cases. It's all based on probability, and I know I'm going to win, because the coupe doesn't have the skill to redirect the wheel and come against me. So I'm in the church, I'm giving a reading, I'm looking at somebody, and all of a sudden I get the I'm invincible feeling that you know that you've got when you're about to lose. And I know that that person is a compulsive gambler, if I get that feeling, because that's how compulsive, you get there close sometimes, and that's how you feel. So I can look
like
at that
an
person.
empathetic kind of imagination.
Yeah, exactly. It's the emotions that you're getting along with the picture of the roulette wheel. So I can look at that person and I can say, right, you like gambling, don't you? Yes. I said, is it roulette? Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. It doesn't matter. It's the gambling emotions that are being put into my head. But I can say to the person, I'm not going to accuse you of being an addict, but you're close to being an addict, or depending on how I'm feeling, would you describe yourself as addictive? Oh my God, yes. Well, I'm getting a very clear warning from Spirit that you've got to pull back and stop. And the number of times I've given that to people, and I've had feedback from the wife or whatever and said, yeah, you were absolutely spot on. Thank you for that. So there's a classic example of how they could use emotional feelings that you're familiar with.
I think what can cloud that from the perspective of someone that's relatively new to it is if you are going into it without a clear mind, like the last time we did a circle, my head wasn't completely clear before we'd started. So I'd faced a lot more blockages. Even though I was still getting the messages, it was harder for me to discern how I'm feeling about what I'm seeing to then translate that message. So it is really important to have that clear, like, breathe in, breathe out connection with Spirit, so that you know that what you're seeing isn't just to make you feel away, but is related.
Yeah, absolutely. The other way that Spirit will work with you is a methodology that I actually teach in our circles. And it's a development of imagination. It's the rule of 3. So you get something that you're familiar with, you give it. Here's a classic example that I gave in a reading: a bunch of bananas. So gave it to the man. No, couldn't take it. Okay. So what does bananas mean to me? It means a TV series called The Monkees. Now, someone like Whitney won't even know who the Monkees are.
At all.
A pop group. Yeah. It's a pop group from that. I'm not actually sure if the pop group came from the TV series or the TV series came from the pop group. It was around about the time of the Beatles. It was in America. And they had a TV series. I can't remember the theme music, but it's still stuck in the back of my head. Very much in the style of the Beatles, and they used to drive around in this car, and they were very funny, and they were called the Monkees. And to me, that's just like happy disco music, style music. Pre-disco, I know, but in my head, as I was growing up, that was the kind of music that was being played on TV. So that takes me back to my childhood and all sorts of imagery that I would associate with that. So again, it's a song, it's a pop group, it's a TV series, it's a bunch of bananas that I associate with the Monkees. So rule of three is number two, you give what you're familiar with. Now, if they can't take that, then you go with the symbolic of whatever the imagination is. So turn it into your imagination. Go back to my example with Star Trek. Let's say they show me USS Voyager. So the first thing I would say is, can you understand the Spirit being a Star Trek fan, science fiction fan? No, the man or the woman didn't like Star Trek, didn't like anything to do with science fiction. Okay, so number two, what do I associate with Star Trek? Now, it would depend what I was seeing, but let's say I saw Catherine Janeway, who was the captain, sitting in the captain's chair. So, okay, I could go, right, and let's say we've established it's a woman. So I might give a physical description of Captain Janeway. Or I might say, was the woman in the military service? Or did the woman hold some sort of rank where she managed people? No, can't take any of that. So the third one is symbolism. So Captain Janeway is symbolic to me of a woman that is full of confidence, that is a get up and go, but she's also very cautious because Star Trek, the captains always follow the prime directive. I mean, if you don't know anything about Star Trek, basically the series is the premise. The ship flies to the other side of the galaxy, and in the first episode, she has the opportunity to get them home, but she breaks the prime directive, which is the primary rule of Starfleet, and she'll damage this local planet, and she chooses to effectively sacrifice her people's journey home, and that's the whole series, their journey home, in order to protect this defenseless little planet. So somebody of extreme moral authority, somebody willing to make extreme sacrifices. So Whitney, does your mother or your grandmother or whoever spirit we think we've got, does that describe her character? Oh yes, she sacrificed her career to bring me up. I mean, okay, I'm making that up. But you see where I was going. That's the rule of three. 1, 2, 3. You give, then you use in terms of your own terms of reference, and then you use the symbolism of it. It's not a particularly good example of the rule of three, but that is how it works. So that's pretty much about it. I mean, I suppose really just to hit on the hammer, don't use your imagination if you even suspect that it's you that's imagining it. I suppose it's the safety factor. Unless another way of counteracting that is, so let's go to the John Wayne example. You get John Wayne in one of these movies, right? You push it to the back, you don't give it. And then you see John Wayne in another movie, let's say Chisholm, and he's got his 2 guns and he's riding across, the famous scene where he's riding across the valley and the 4 gunmen are coming towards him. So you clear your mind and you get rid of it. And then you see, think of another John Wayne, but you can tell I'm a John Wayne fan, can't you? The Alamo, which is a very out of character for him because he's playing a historical figure. He's not a cowboy. And then all of a sudden, oh, that's the 3rd movie, push it out of my head. And then I get another movie, Stagecoach, which was his very first movie. And again, you can see the level of detail I'm getting here. If Spirit are doing that, then you're ignoring it. And there's something going on here. So I made a joke that you're very unlikely to meet the granddaughter of John Wayne. I was once in Lilydale. Well, I wasn't in Lilydale. I was very close to Lilydale, giving a reading, and I kept getting Frank Sinatra. And exactly the same routine. Get him out of my mind, got a Frank Sinatra, got him out of my mind, got Frank Sinatra. And by the time I got to the 5th one, I wasn't getting anything else but Frank Sinatra. And I had been listening to Frank Sinatra on the car radio on the way to where we were going. So I was 100% sure it was just me. And finally, I just gave up. I said, look, I'm getting Frank Sinatra. Now, I'm pretty sure it's my own imagination, but I can't get it out of my head. Can you understand it? And all she gave me was yes. And then that was it. I then got other evidence that she could take all of. And she came up to me afterwards. It was a stage event. And she came up to me afterwards and she said, I just want you to know 2 things. Yeah? What? You're the first person that's ever given me Frank Sinatra. Okay. And number 2, he was my great uncle. So sometimes it does work. Anyway, we're running out of time. We've only got 4 minutes left. So let me just do a quick. We're not doing this on our closing video anymore. We tried it and it didn't work. So if you would like to come, I mean, we've given you a taste of the training we do. And if you would like to get some free training, go to Scott Spirit Training, sorry, Raining. It's Scott Spirit Raining. That should just be 1 T. And you'll find a box. That is our Rain, who is a member of the team, believe it or not. Which is an AI personality, an LLM model that we've programmed. You can ask her, I want a link for the next available, and she'll give you the link. Or you can ask her any other questions about the training, want to know what we charge, ask it, as I'm calling it a her, it's a he. Anything you want to know about us as a business, anything you want to know about what we're doing, just ask the LLM and you'll get an answer. If you would like details of all our streaming events, so for example, there's about 8 of them this month, and it's too late to get them for this month. But if you register there, markstuartmedium.com/newsletter, we send out a monthly newsletter. I might resend it out, actually. I might resend it out again, but not guaranteeing, because I don't want everybody to start putting it into the spam folder if we send them repeatedly. But register there, you'll get the newsletter. Tell anything that we're doing. So, for example, this one had a nice big article about, or nice big article about Whitney. So make sure that you subscribe for that. And this is also the what was it? Oh yeah, International Mother's Day. So
Women's Day. Women's Month, actually.
Okay, whatever you want to call it, the opposite sex. There's an article about it. And as I said, you can find us on Facebook, multiple pages, but as we said at the beginning, it's all being deleted after 30 days. So you can watch us as we broadcast. But if you want to see history of what we've done, and that's going to get a lot more material as we go by. I mean, we're probably talking about 1, 2, 3, 4. We're probably talking about 8 to 10 hours of material that we're going to be putting out this month alone. And that's going to get a lot more in April. So YouTube is the place to go and show it. See it? Already covered that. Marc and his cards. Already covered that. Me. And by the way, in case you want to know who Ying is, she is a team member. She's my wife. Beautiful woman and a podiatrist. Okay, well, I think that's about it. We've got a new video that's coming up at the end with all our branding on it again. So, pleasure. Devi will be back next Tuesday, and she'll be on Wednesday, tomorrow night for the circle. So if you're registered for the circle and you're watching this, we shall see you tomorrow. If you're not registered for tomorrow, you probably have to come to Sunday, because I think we've got 1 place left tomorrow. That's about it. Anyway, pleasure and good evening.